Hi there and welcome to Real Talk Fitness with AMPT. I'm your host, Ashleigh Cummins, the owner of AMPT. A little about me, if you're first jumping on to listening, I'm not just a personal trainer, I'm also a busy mum of two energetic boys. I know what it's like to juggle work life, family and fitness goals. On top of that, I've been on all sides of the fitness world, whether it's competing as a fitness model, testing my limits in CrossFit, or chasing big numbers on the platform as a powerlifter. If you're ready to cut through the noise and get real about what it takes to achieve your goals, whether it's building strength, improving body composition, or just feeling better in your own skin, this podcast is for you. In today's episode, I want to dive into something that comes up all the time in my coaching conversations, and something I've lived through myself: fear of failure and success. So if you're ready, let's dive in. There's a quote I love: fear kills more dreams than failure ever did. And today I want to unpack that, because failure and success aren't actually opposites. They're partners. You can't have one without the other. You're probably thinking, how do failure and success go together? Most of us grow up thinking success is about avoiding failure. That if you fail, it means that you're not good enough. That success is the opposite of failure. But the reality is they're equals. Success is built through failure, not away from it. Every stumble, every setback, every missed rep or wrong turn, those are the exact things that carve the path forward. Failure moves you forward. It teaches, it refines, it toughens you. Fear though? Fear is completely different. Fear stops you before you have even begun. I want to share with you a personal experience. On these podcasts, I do get a little bit personal. I'm very much a closed book, so sharing these experiences is massive for me. I've experienced this firsthand. When I competed in CrossFit, failure was always part of the deal. You walk out on that floor, you're up against the clock, and sometimes your body just doesn't do what you trained it to do. You fail a lift. You don't get the reps you wanted. You come in lower on the leaderboard than you thought. And in the moment, I'm not going to lie, it stings. But here's the thing. Every comp taught me something. I walked away better, sharper, more aware of what I needed to work on. And that's what set me up for the next success. The powerlifting platform. This is the same. You get 3 attempts at each lift: squat, bench, dead. There's always a chance you could fail one. Now, I'm not going to lie, I get nervous as fuck. Imagine being out on the platform, everybody's watching, the judges are staring at you, and you know that there's a possibility that that weight won't go up. In that moment, it's fucking terrifying. Not because of the barbell, but because of what failure might say about you. But here's the thing. Failing a lift doesn't mean you're not strong. It doesn't mean that I don't belong in that sport. It just means that on that day, that lift wasn't mine. And I learn from it. I get back under the bar, I adjust, and I move forward. I've missed lifts on the platform, but I've also hit some of my biggest ever lifts on the platform too. I wouldn't have one without the other. That's the truth, right? Without failing, I would have never been able to succeed. So they're equals. This brings me to another conversation that I've been having with a lot of clients. I want to do this, but I don't want to let anyone down. Now, sometimes it's really hard for me not to be so black and white. The fear of not signing up, or the fear of signing up, should I say, isn't the fear about failing. It's about being seen failing. About being exposed to criticism or looking like you didn't get it right the first time. If this is you and you're sitting on the fence about doing something because you have this fear of being seen or being exposed to criticism, here's the reality. Nobody who matters is keeping score of your failures. The people who matter are watching you show up. The only one holding you back with that story is you. Fear convinces you not to even start. The fear of being exposed to criticism or being on show. It's not the fear of failure. Failure will move you forward. I want to go into a little bit of science around fear and failure. It's really interesting what actually is happening in your brain and body. When you feel fear, your brain's amygdala, the part that scans for danger, lights up. It can't tell the difference between a life-threatening situation and standing on a powerlifting platform, for example. To your body, both feel like a threat. That's why your heart races, your palms sweat, your breathing changes. The problem is when fear takes over, it shuts down the prefrontal cortex, the part of our brain that is responsible for logic, problem solving, decision making. In other words, fear literally hijacks your brain and convinces you to stay small, stay safe, and don't risk it. Failure, on the other hand, does the opposite. When you fail and then get back up, your brain actually rewires itself. This is called neuroplasticity, the ability to form new connections. Every time you push through failure, you're training your brain to be more resilient, to handle stress better, to adapt faster. So the reality is, fear keeps you locked in survival mode. Failure builds strength, resilience, and growth. One shuts you down, the other one levels you up. So if you're on the fence, and I've recently had the conversation with you going, I'm not going to commit because I don't want to let anybody down. The reality is, you're letting yourself down. You're keeping yourself locked. You're never going to move from where you are. Do it scared. What's the worst that can happen? Now let's just take a look at some of the most successful people we all know today. Michael Jordan, one of the greatest basketballers of all time. Did you know that he was cut from the high school basketball team? Imagine if he let that failure define him, that fear of not being enough. He would have never been successful. J.K. Rowling, the author of Harry Potter, was rejected by 12 different publishers before one finally said yes. And today, her books are some of the most successful in history. Imagine if she let that failure of 12 different publishers stop her. Now, Walt Disney, this is one. He was fired from a newspaper job because his editor said he lacked imagination. Whether you choose to believe that or not, that's the man who created Mickey Mouse, Disneyland, and an entire empire. At one point in his journey, he was told he wasn't creative enough. Now let's just pause. Imagine if that failure stopped him, that fear of not being enough. We wouldn't have any Disney movies today. And even Oprah Winfrey was once told she wasn't fit for television. These aren't exceptions. They're examples of what happens when people choose to keep going. Failure didn't stop them, but the fear of being rejected or the fear of not being accepted would have. So when you think about failing, I want you to remember you're standing in the same arena that every single successful person has stood in. The only difference between those who made it and those that didn't is the ones that made it, they didn't let fear take their first move. So I hope you're still following with me. If you're fearing taking that step, signing up to that fitness challenge, taking on a different route of training, setting different goals, don't let fear take your first move from you. Because what's the worst that can happen? You fail, you learn, you get back up and you try again. Courage isn't about waiting until you're not scared anymore. It's about moving with it. Fear will always whisper, what if you fail? But your job is to rewire that, what if I fly? What if I succeed? Because here's the truth. I've failed reps, I've missed lifts, I've lost workouts, And yet those exact failures are the things that have created my best wins. Failure won't define you, but guess what? Fear will confine you. You will never grow if you're too scared to start. And that's a wrap for today's episode of Real Talk Fitness with AMPT. If you're listening today and you've been holding big heart back because you don't want to look like you failed, I want you to remember this. Failure is part of the process. It's proof you're in the arena. You're taking that shot. Fear, on the other hand, will rob you of your chance. Failure will sharpen you for success. Thank you for tuning in today. If this episode spoke to you, I would love it if you could share it with a friend or someone who needs that reminder. And remember, fear keeps you stuck, but failure will move you forward, and that's where success lives. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you know someone who might need that little extra motivation, please share it, but you can also follow me on Ashleigh Newburn's personal training for more tips, workouts, and inspiration. Thank you for joining me. Keep lifting, keep moving, and most importantly, keep it real. Until next time.